welcome back to Recovery Demystified. It's your friend Early. I'm so happy that you're here today. I have my first interviewee. I'm so excited. It's my friend Logan. We've been talking about doing this for quite a while. I'm excited that I finally dragged him into the state-of-the-art podcast studio at the Fayetteville Public Library. Anyway, yeah, we got down into it, got super real. Logan's story is, he went through it, y'all. And I hope you get something out of listening to it. I definitely did. I always learn a lot from him when we talk. And 12-step is a huge part of his recovery. And I know that like the mission of Recovery Demystified is to create a space that is distinctly not that. But if something helps you, that is the most important thing, you know? And I would honestly say, like, go try it. Like, for me, I tried it. For me, I had a feeling it wouldn't work. I tried it. I gave it my all. I did everything they said. And I ended up feeling hurt, more traumatized, and worse, right? But Logan went. He tried it. He did everything I said. And it made him feel better. So, like, try it. It's free. What do you got to lose, you know? And then see how you feel afterwards and decide if it's going to be in your wheelhouse of coping skills or not. Anywho, I want to know what you're grateful for today. We have a little thingy on our Instagram of where folks can go and list off what you're grateful for. I would love if you hit pause on this podcast and went straight to that Instagram and told me what you're grateful for today. Take a look at if anyone else has posted up on there what they're grateful for today and just sit with it. You know, like there's a lot of complaining. There's a lot of like hard stuff that we go through. But as we start to consciously bring gratitude into our hearts, we can create new neural pathways in our brain. And the more we do that, we can become grateful, more positive, more happy as sort of a knee-jerk reaction. So go list off what you're grateful for, please. I'm so excited to see it. Actually, to tell you the truth, I'm never going to see it because I'm allergic to social media. And speaking of which, I want to thank and be super grateful for my lovely friend Kaylee, who is our social media manager. Thank you so much, Kaylee. And if any of y'all are up on the Instagram, she is the one designing all of the posts and is in charge of everything on there. And I know that reaching out to the community would be sort of impossible without a social media presence. So, Kaylee, I'm grateful for you, my dear. Thank you so much. And I also wanted to let you know that with the dry January coming up, like a lot of us can make sort of like lofty goals. Like we're so excited, right? Like, oh, I'm going to be sober for 30 days and I'm going to like get a gym membership and I'm going to quit caffeine and sugar and I'm going to learn to do macrame and play the fiddle. And all right, y'all, if you can do that, I will be so happy for you. But I want to let you know that in any journey of trying to give up something that is harming you, like your addiction, that your survival is enough. Okay? I'm going to say it again. Your survival is enough. If you're not able to get that whole 30 days in dry January, but you lived through it, I'm proud of you for that. If you don't get a single sober day in January, but you drink, I don't know, half as much on half of the nights, like, I love you for that. Your main goal on this journey is your survival, and surviving is enough. Okay? If you have to eat ice cream every day that you're sober, but you're surviving, that's enough. If you quit drinking, but you smoke weed from noon till night every day, that you surviving is enough, okay? Sometimes trying to do too much is just going to make everything crumble and make it impossible. But surviving is enough. Y'all, I'm really excited for you to hear this interview with Logan. And if anyone is out there in recovery who wants to do a little volunteer work, if you know about sound editing, I could use some help on that. So send me an email, info@recoverydemystified.com. Also, we have that PayPal and Venmo at Recovery Demystified. If you want to drop a few dollars in there, everything always helps. And without further ado, here is the interview with Logan. Hello, welcome to Recovery Demystified. I'm so excited today. I have my very first interviewee. It's my friend Logan. I first made friends with Logan through my ex-partner introducing us. He was like, my friend Logan's going to come over and visit. I think we'll get along really well. You both went from sloppy to sober. And I love talking to people about recovery. So the second we met, we just clicked instantly. And since then, we've been on very different journeys. It's interesting to me that, for instance, AA caused me pain, but it saved Logan's life. And Kratom saved my life, but it caused Logan to be at one of his worst bottoms. And that just goes to show that everyone's recovery story is different. You have to choose what works for you. And without further ado, Logan, please introduce yourself.
Hey, yeah, my name is Logan, and I am 35 years old. I've been sober for 4.5 years. I am single, don't have any kids. My occupation is a welder, a boilermaker, and for fun, I play music. Also kind of like a little side hustle and everything.
You hear that, folks? He's single.
Shit.
All right. I'm super interested. What was it like for you being a kid? When was some of your first dabbling into drugs and alcohol? How did it develop from there? And then when did you start to realize it was a problem? And what ended up working for you in the end? How did you get sober for 4.5? It's been 4.5 consecutive years.
Yes.
One and done.
Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, my childhood. So I was born in California, and we moved around a lot. I went to a lot of schools, so I was the new kid a lot, and moved every 2 years, it felt like, and had a pretty good childhood. We never went without, my parents were divorced by the time I was 12, 13, and that's when we've made our final move and kind of stayed put in North Carolina, and that's where I spent a lot of my formative years.
Didn't you say both of your parents had some issues with addiction as well?
Yeah, so my mom always kind of struggled with her drinking, stopped. I guess they were both kind of drinkers, and so yeah, they both would drink, and I remember my dad yelling at my mom you drank all the wine, and them getting into fights, and
how did it feel seeing that as a kid?
Well, I guess I never really, I guess I had an avoidant attachment or something, and I guess that kind of makes me just kind of go into my shell, dealing with them, with their fighting and everything. But yeah. And then from 13, 14, I moved to North Carolina, and then did the whole smoking weed for the first time, and and going into a neighbor's garage and stealing beer from their the refrigerator in the garage and getting drunk for the first time. And yeah, just like normal teenager experimentation for the most part.
I know a lot of people describe that like first experience with drinking or with smoking weed as like an aha moment. Like you described moving a lot and having sort of a couple rough things happen during your childhood. When you first drank and smoked, was it like, whoa, this is what I've been missing? Or was it just describe kind of how it felt?
Well, it was fun, you know, like, but it never really, like, it wasn't like an instant kind of like, oh, I need this all the time. You know, it was more of like a gradual thing for me. You know, I felt like from the early teens to late teens, it was like pretty like normally acceptable or whatever. It wasn't until like the later years I was using alcohol to really cope and everything.
All right. Go on and let us know, sort of how high school was and then what it was like in young adulthood and when did everything kind of become a problem?
So high school, I remember experimenting with like hallucinogens and I remember taking mushrooms, and then that kind of triggered me into having panic attacks in high school.
Panic attacks on mushrooms?
Panic attacks after mushrooms.
After mushrooms, okay.
Yeah, but also during. It was terrible.
What? Yeah, tell me about that. That sounds really scary because tripping, you're so vulnerable, you know, and like panicking. What was that like?
Well, I remember I already dealt with like anxiety and depression. And then I feel like for me, hallucinogens, I know you just went on your ayahuasca tour and I could not do that at all. That would just like take me into like an ultimate hellscape.
More on this in a later episode, listeners.
But to each their own, you know, like I just know I can't do that. And so
you're a teenager on mushrooms. What happened?
And then, so teenager on mushrooms, I'm going to high school and like just can't even be in like the classroom without like having a panic disorder and almost having to drop out of high school because of it. And then, so all my decisions were based off of that. Like I couldn't do classrooms. And so my family and my dad suggesting it's like, why don't you get into welding? Like I work by the shipyards and those guys make really good money. And so I got into that, like not having any kind of experience, never even welding before in my life, but I just knew that I didn't want to sit in a classroom. So going to welding school when I was 18 out of high school and just kind of like being a maladjusted young teenager.
Was therapy an option at that point?
I think, as a kid, I'd seen therapy or seen therapists and gone to some psychiatrist, you know, but it was mostly just to get whatever substance I could to stop the panic attacks and like dabbling in drugs like Xanax and everything. And I was like a big benzo fiend, and like my family, it's pretty prevalent with them. Like they hand it out like it's freaking a cure-all. Like if you're having a headache, here's a Xanax, or like if you're having a stomach ache, here's a Xanax, you know. And so being in welding school and then kind of being thrown into the work world at 19, I was like 19 years old, like around these grown men, and it was pretty easy to buy beer because, you know, I worked with a bunch of adults and just still like thrown into this world and not really adjusting really well. I didn't really like take well to having a career, I guess. And that'll be kind of like the theme my whole life, like finding like some kind of healthy work-life balance, you know, and kind of checking out at times, kind of my more avoidant, you know, avoidant attachment kind of stuff I have. But really having a first breakup and around that time, 1920, and that's when drugs really came into my life around that time period, because they were so prevalent and I could get drugs and like pills, and like I remember having like all the pills on the color wheel, like hydrocodone, morphine, Subutex, Suboxone, Xanax, and just kind of like being a real pill head.
You're taking pills to medicate the pain of the breakup.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just like overall anxiety I had just like had a hard time dealing with just any kind of like loss or kind of rejection. I didn't deal with rejection very well. And so it's spending my life kind of like out of control at that point, and then I had to move to Charlotte, North Carolina, and the pills were no longer available, so it just kind of switched to drinking at that point, and just and then I was drinking a lot, and then got another job through a distant relative welding in Charlotte, and it was just like a very stressful, toxic work environment. Also my drinking really had ramped up at that point, and then also around the same time period, meeting up with like these like kids, like traveling kids who had like rode trains and stuff, and they drank just as much as I did, and didn't work. So I thought that was like that was pretty cool, you know. And then
what about working was so difficult for you? Having a career in those really demanding welding jobs and everything, like what exactly about it? What made you just want to leave?
I just like had a hard time. It's something about depression that makes everything just so much harder than it should be, you know? And I was just like in a fog of just like anything that could go wrong did go wrong, you know? And it felt like I had a really hard time just functioning. Like at one time I was trying to open a wine bottle, and I was using my car keys to like open the bottle, and my car keys broke off into the wine bottle, and I couldn't make it to work. And so like just didn't go into work because my like car keys were broke off into this like wine bottle.
Relatable.
Yeah. It's like,
so,
yeah.
Sort of what I'm hearing is like when you're a kid, you saw addiction and the coping skills perhaps were not demonstrated to you, except like, oh, your head hurts, take a Xanax. That's a coping skill, right? And I mean, it'll work, but only for so long. And then into adulthood, you're kind of patterning that behavior, like mirroring what you saw growing up. I'm curious, did the depression, anxiety, and all that stuff, did it get worse as you got more intense into drugs and alcohol? Did it stay the same? Did it get better? Did it go up and down?
It like worked until it doesn't work anymore. You know, like it would take it away, but then it would be back tenfold, you know? And being sober now has like made my anxiety so much more manageable, you know? And I hear people say like, oh, I have anxiety, so I need this beer or so-and-so, or like, and I always, because I feel like that is just such misinformation. And it's like, well, actually, I hate to be that guy, but it's like, well, actually, if you have anxiety, you probably shouldn't drink, because it's like making it worse, you know? It's not helping your anxiety.
It's definitely my experience. I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder while I was in active addiction, and I was like, oh, I can't even, like, my skin is crawling waiting for the gas to pump in my car. Like, I'm so anxious, I just can't wait for anything to be over. I need to drink to make the anxiety go away. And shocker, after I got sober for long enough, I would say my anxiety, I still have it. It's a human quality, but it's down like 95%. Like it is a drop in the bucket. It's awesome. It's like so manageable now. But less about me. What happened after you met these traveling kids and didn't want to do the welding job anymore after you lost your keys in the wine bottle?
Well, believe it or not, they fired me eventually. Yeah. And because my performance went down, and so they said they weren't going to fight me on unemployment. And then so I was going to get my unemployment, and I thought, hell yeah, that's awesome. Like I'm going to get unemployment and get to hang out with my friends, play music, and like get a check, coming in. And so
it's a punk rock dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I remember like traveling. Eventually my unemployment runs out, and then like doing the whole train thing and hitchhiking and for the first time, and it was just very brief. And then coming back home from that, like we went down to New Orleans and Texas, and falling in love with New Orleans, definitely like an alcoholic's dream down there. But also some really good recovery down there, as I've discovered later. And getting back into coming from Charlotte, going back to Charlotte, and my family like wanting an intervention for me, and I already had quit drinking at that point, but they were like very worried about me. And
what happened that? Was it in New Orleans? What happened that made you want to quit drinking for the first time?
Oh, good question. So yeah, just being out there and in that culture of like riding trains and like hitchhiking and stuff, like it's really like romanticized, like, oh, people are checking out. And sometimes, you meet really interesting people, but then you meet just as maladjusted people as you are, maybe, with some darker trauma, what have you. And just like some people, like, I just remember seeing somebody like DTing so bad they were like vomiting till they couldn't vomit anymore and everything. And like, and just, it was just kind of sad at one point, like it made me not want to drink anymore, just being surrounded by such bad alcoholism, in that culture. And I was like, wow, I really need to like rein this in. And
so you saw someone DTing, and I guess for the listeners, DTing is delirium tremens. It's like when someone's like pretty hardcore addicted to alcohol and then they stop cold turkey. There can be like some pretty dangerous things that happen. There's like hands shaking, I'm sure everyone's familiar with, but it can get to the point where people like, you can have a seizure and die. So you saw someone DTing and it just kind of like shocked you?
Yeah, there was multiple things, and then like just stories with me, like being in a squat and like waking up in human feces,
What?
Yes. It's like waking up in shit.
What? Your shit? Someone else's shit?
It wasn't mine. It wasn't my shit.
That'll make you want to change your life.
Yeah. So at that point,
that'll do it.
You like wake up in someone else's shit, and and then so you're like, whoa, maybe life isn't going as like expected or planned, And so I was blaming the drinking, and it definitely was a part of it, and so, yeah, I wanted to be sober, and like all that I knew, like my whole family's like Christian, and like, I'm like, okay, I'll go to church and I'll stop drinking. And like, but church never worked for me. And like, I tried so hard to be like a Christian good boy, but I just can't, I can't do it. It doesn't work for me, and it works for other people, and that's fine. And I come from like a family of fire and brimstone, where they like, if you don't believe this, you're gonna go to hell, and so I would just kind of be like, well, I don't believe that, so I guess I'm gonna go to hell, and like I don't believe any of this, and so
damn.
And yeah,
I have a friend whose brother actually beat him with a Bible.
Yeah.
Beat him with the Bible.
That's really going to spread the word.
It's the love of Christ.
But yeah, I just trying that on, it didn't work, and like just still like isolating out. I kind of have like a pattern of isolate and be sober, but it's like as soon as I'm social, I get the social anxiety and like have to drink, and while I'm around people. But so my drinking career was always like me trying not to drink, so I wouldn't be around anybody, and then like every time I would be around people, like I would cave, and wouldn't stick to anything I said.
Did you have any coping skills besides willpower? Like, was it all just white knuckling during the isolation?
Yeah, it was just like a lot of white knuckling for sure. And so like fast forward to like mid-20s, I finally moved back down to New Orleans and was living down there and trying to busk and play music and just like having a hard time and drinking too much and like trying not to drink and like going through that pattern all over again and everything, and but also struggling financially, and so luckily I ran into this guy who was a retired Boilermaker president, and I told him I had like done welding in the past, and
you're pedicabbing, right?
Yeah, so he was a pedicab, or I was a pedicab. He was on my ride. It was the last ride of the day, and so when I got dispatched, picked him up, and he hooked me up like it was my ticket out of New Orleans, and so I got out of New Orleans and started working in Tennessee, where I like had a drastic change and like making more money, but still drinking too much, and then like working hard and like playing hard kind of thing, and just went on from there, and it fast forward to like another relationship I had. It was a very toxic, bad relationship, and that coming to an end, and then more drugs being more prevalent in that relationship. And
what drugs were y'all doing in that relationship?
So like that's when I got more into went from cocaine to crack, because I was in New Orleans. It's like more readily available crack cocaine, and so just doing that, and every time we argue, and just like like the feeling I would get like from a night, like it's the worst hangover you can ever get, and just feeling so like
the crack hangover,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was just one of the worst hangovers you could have. It was just like demoralizing, and
yeah. What does it feel like?
It's just like feel like all the serotonin in your brain is just zapped away, and that was just like a really bad relationship that had other things going on with it. And and then...
Did y'all do drugs together? Did you drink together? Or was it just like you left and smoked crack because you were upset? Yeah, we would use drugs together. And that's never a good thing. So, so using drugs together, and knowing that relationship had to end because of it, and all right, so you're having the bad breakup, then what happens after that?
So going through, I don't handle breakups very well, and or like any kind of rejection very well, and so I'm trying to start over again with a geographical cure, and to like move to Asheville, North Carolina.
And the geographical cure is basically like, oh, my problems are all in New Orleans, right? So if I leave, then I'm going to leave my problems behind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm in Asheville trying to find a job, even though I work and do like the welding thing. I'm like trying to find work around there for whatever reason. And I remember me and a friend go out and singing karaoke. And
what song?
I like my women a little on the trashy side.
Classic.
Yeah. And so then I remember like just being really drunk and just frustrated and swerving my car and like drifting around these country roads.
Frustrated with what? Your karaoke performance?
No, that was on point. But just being frustrated with life in general, I guess. And so just like drifting my car and then like losing control, going head on into a tree, and then like someone calls the cops, like I get arrested. I'm in the back of a cop car.
You
like,
remember everything?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I wasn't really one to like black out. I know some people it's like blackout is a part of their stories and everything, but I wasn't really a blackout person.
Even with the Xanax and everything?
Yeah. The Xanax, I would feel like people would black out with Xanax, but for me it was like I'd just take Xanax and go about my day, I guess, because my anxiety levels were high or something. I don't know, but
Was it your first time getting arrested?
And that was my first time getting arrested. And I was always good about flying under the radar. And, and I flew under the radar for so long. And it was like bad, but not bad enough. And it finally got bad enough. And for you to get your license back in North Carolina, you have to do an alcohol assessment. And so I went and did an assessment and just told them everything because I was ready to stop because I had tried so many times.
You told them the truth.
Yeah, I told them the truth. And so I told them about all the crack, all the kratom, and like all the alcohol. And they were like, you need to go to an inpatient. And being reluctant at first, and eventually I went, and then COVID hit. And then getting out of rehab in like a COVID world was actually kind of nice. Wearing a mask and everywhere was closed, so I never felt tempted to like go to any bars. And I was just doing, for me, like Zoom meetings and everything. And
so they had you doing meetings in the rehab, and that's how you got started on the AA stuff?
Yeah. So they kind of like, when you go to rehab, it's like it's like a recovery boot camp. And you're like not allowed to be alone, and you have a roommate. You always have accountability. You're not allowed to isolate. And it was just like meeting after meeting, and so the whole thing is like to be around people all the time. And they suggested, like, I think I enjoyed being sober, and I felt validated on some parts, but then also checked on where I was behaving, and I enjoyed recovery, and they suggested that you do 90 meetings in 90 days, and that's what I did. And
How long were you inpatient for?
I was an inpatient for 30 days, and it was supposed to be 45 days, but I was able to get out in 30, and I just kept doing meetings. And I remember just like hearing this one meeting, this lady was, and Zoom meetings was nice because it was just so accessible, and whatever social anxiety you have, it's like, I feel like Zoom meetings, it's like a lot softer instead of like people like all in your face. And, it was like a nice easing into the meetings and wrapping my head around sobriety and recovery. I had a sponsor at the time. We didn't really relate or jive well. It just never really happened. So my first couple years, I was like sponsorless. And but one of those meetings, I remember a lady was talking about her grief of losing her child and staying sober through it. And that helped keep me sober. I still think about that to this day because if she can go through such an extreme grief and stay sober, she like took all my excuses away. Like I have no excuse to drink anymore. And so like no matter how bad my day is, and
that's a major coping skill. That's a huge accomplishment that you can have something that's so effective. Like think about someone else's loss of their child and be like, oh yeah, well, someone cut me off driving and I got all pissed off, but I'm not going to drink over it, because like it can get so much worse. That's an awesome little nugget.
Yeah, it really helped me. And that's what I got from the meetings was just like other people's stories. And I think I was really wanting that connection and stuff. And every time I'd be sober, like I'd just be isolated by myself and I wouldn't have that connection, like the opposite of addiction is connection. And that's what I was kind of looking for. I didn't think that people would like me for me, and the thought of being sober would scare me, like I always had to be on some kind of substance at all times. And, because I think at the end of the day, we all like want to be loved and accepted. And you and I had such a low opinion of myself that you won't like me for who I am, so I have to be this person for you, which is like some people pleasing thing, And
how has that changed for you?
So I think a word like going to meetings and stuff, I hear words like acceptance and gratitude, like I just accept when people don't like me, and that's okay. It's like, you hate my guts. All right. You're entitled to your opinion, and that's okay. You can't like, it's other people other people don't define who I am, and I was letting other people like outside influences define who I am,
That's beautiful. That's so authentic. Like nothing has to change about ourselves besides our perception of what is going on. Like you can still be you and other people can still judge all they want, but you can just let it fall off of you. And you said you also use gratitude. So is it like you're grateful then for the people that you have good relationships with, like your friends and whatnot? Like where does gratitude come in?
Yeah, just gratitude for just what I have. Like I've always like have food, like shelter, and the relationships that I do have now, and that's like one thing in rehab is like we would have the weekend and like we wouldn't see the counselors, and you show up to the rehab on Monday and it's kind of like, all right, what did you guys do over the weekend? And it was just, and I used to roll my eyes at it like, this is so stupid. Like a participation trophy thing. Everybody like, all right, good job. And it's just kind of like, but that's really how you have to be with yourself. You have to be kind with yourself. Like, I'm doing good right now. Good for me. Like, this is like a big step for me. And it might not be someone else's battle or whatever, but your own personal battle. You can't compare yourself to other people. Like going to the bar sober for the first time, it's like that might not be anything for anybody else, but if that's like a big hurdle for you and then you overcome that, it's like good for me. Like I did something good for myself. Like this is like a small win, like really count your small wins and be grateful for them. And it's like all those baby steps like lead to something you can look back and be like, wow, look how far I've come. It's like slowly but surely, it's really hard to do life again sober. What it required alcohol in the past.
What other coping skills do you use other than going to meetings? Like you have a pretty robust recovery going on. I'm interested in what else kind of things help you get through the difficult emotions.
Yeah, so with the anxiety thing, like just basic diet and exercise goes a long way. I'm not on any SSRIs, and not like there's anything wrong with that. But I just I'd like to stay physical and stay physically active, and just like watch what I eat, can go a long way,
Now tell me, do you sleep at night?
And then I sleep pretty well. Yeah.
And all that stuff just kind of brings the anxiety down somewhere more manageable, or how does it shift?
Yeah, so yeah, it makes my anxiety way more manageable, and I just like going to the gym, and then like I haven't even gone to the gym yet, and then I see people walking out of the gym and they're like laughing and they're in a good mood. You can just see like the change that happens in people. It's like as soon as you take all these, I remember being in elementary school and like the teacher would take you guys outside or just like have you stand next to your desk and like do movements, and everybody, gets all like giddy, and like the kids all start, and then the teacher has to like calm everybody down. It's just like a natural thing that happens. Like it like releases endorphins and stuff, just like putting yourself into motion and everything. And I try to stay like on top of that, but that doesn't, I tried doing that a lot and like running my alcoholism away, and it can work a little bit, but really like connecting with other people, is like has really helped me a lot. So
that's your meat and potatoes.
My meat and potatoes.
What about like, I know we both like to listen to recovery podcasts. Like, how does stuff like that fill in the gaps when you can't do meeting type of things?
Oh, yeah. Like, recovery podcasts have definitely kept me sober for sure. And I remember the first time coming to your property, I was just over a year. And I was like iffy and weird about meetings, or I don't know. It definitely helped me and does help me in a pinch where it's like I don't have the time to go to a meeting, or I don't know. It's just for some reason I can't do a meeting or even a Zoom meeting. And it's like I just need something like a speaker meeting or something to get me out of my headspace. And like I'll listen to Recovery Elevator or Recovery Demystified.
Ooh. So it seems like you got a kind of magic formula of things, if you don't mind me repeating. It's that you have a community in the 12-step program. You have some like podcasts with speakers and also like normal people telling their stories to kind of fill in the gaps. And then every day you take care of yourself in the ways that like we couldn't in addiction, like sleeping, eating healthy, exercising. And then on top of that, you have like little nuggets of things like, oh, no matter how bad my day gets, at least it's not that woman's story about losing her child, to just kind of like ground you back into your reality. Gratitude and acceptance, I think we're in there too. Those are awesome. You got a big bucket full of coping skills. Yeah.
And it's still like, it's never really done. I also have a sponsor, and it was hard for me to, I don't know why I was so anti having a sponsor, but now it's just someone I call, and like if I need to talk to, I have someone in my corner who can like help me out. I bounce ideas off of, So, but that not really coming later to recovery, until I was like a couple years sober and everything. And above all anything else, like at the end of the day, my sobriety is the most important thing. I keep it's my number one priority, like before money, like friends, family, because if I'm not sober, like I'm not going to be able to be there for other people, and I'm not going to be able to be there for my friends, for my family. And it doesn't matter how much money I have. If I'm not sober, I'm just going to blow it on drugs and alcohol, So sobriety always comes first, and I would try to put my recovery first. And if I'm feeling like iffy or shaky about it, or even thinking that I want to drink, that's when I'll reach out and do something towards my sobriety, and or just like go out and sometimes volunteering and doing something for other people. Maybe it's not always a meeting. Sometimes I get tired of going to meetings, like sometimes I don't want to do a meeting. I get tired of talking about myself, like I want to get outside of myself. I want to like help other people. And that's like just a choice I make. It's either that or drinking. And I already know what drinking does or led me to, so it's like I'm at this fork in the crossroads. And so I'm going to do this. And like my life has gotten so much better making those choices and not drinking,
I'm curious, do you still get cravings? And if you do, what kind of things do you do in response to them?
Cravings. So when I was first sober, I would get terrible cravings, and like my palms would get sweaty, and like my heart would race, like just the thought of using, and but now like the physical cravings do get easier and do almost just about go away or are completely gone. I don't have any physical cravings. What I do have to do now, what I do deal with now is just my emotions. And like now what I have to really deal with is anger and my control issues. That's what's left, and that's what really took me back out and like took me out drinking, so now it's, the physical cravings do go away. It does get easier, but then I still have to deal with like life stuff happens, people,
So you get mad, and is some part of your brain say, you're mad, why didn't you just go have a drink? Or does that not really happen anymore?
No, that doesn't really happen anymore, honestly. But I'm mad, so why don't you go drink some of this self-righteous anger?
Why don't you go punch a man right in his noggin?
Yeah.
That's cool. So 4.5 years, do you remember like sort of when that voice stopped popping in your head to give you that idea to drink?
I always kind of like wanted to stop drinking. And then the voice where I was like, okay, I'll try this whole sobriety thing. And like, I guess in my head, I was like, all right, I'll do a year sober and then we'll see after that. But it's like once a year went up and I was sober for a year, then like things started getting better. I was like, well, why would I want to ruin this with drinking, So, but I mean, it was kind of like a shaky year for sure. And they say it's like really the 2-year mark. That's like their chances of drinking again like drop dramatically. But
so when did that voice that gave you the idea to drink, when did that stop popping in your head as a response to things like anger and other emotions?
I can't really remember specifically when like my cravings to drink went away. When I don't know. I knew I couldn't anymore. It like wasn't an option. I knew like I already know what's going to happen, if I drink.
I have all the data.
Yeah.
I'm also curious, Logan, is being sober boring?
No, it's not. It can. Life still happens, Yeah. So I don't know. The fun changes. It's I could still have fun. It's just like not the same kind of fun. Like now being sober, I enjoy going on bike packing trips and like going to Europe and stuff and just like doing those kind of things. It's I just like have fun doing that, but it's definitely nothing good happens at 3 a.m. Like what is like I used to stay up till 3 a.m. thinking like something magical was gonna happen, like we were gonna have like the time. And maybe it did one time, and then I was just like chasing that feeling, you know.
The bewitching hour.
Yeah.
Well,
You want to take a little break?
yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Future early here. After we took that break, we got tired and never started recording again, so look forward to a part 2. Logan wanted me to tell y'all, if you are wondering whether or not you should stop drinking, he said the answer is yes, because people who don't have a problem don't wonder. So there's an easy answer for you on that. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to another episode with y'all. May you be happy and free, dear listener. Okay, we're going to do the record test. I'm testing the recording. Will you test your recording?
Check 1, 2, 3. The arsonist has oddly shaped feet. The arsonist has oddly shaped feet.
Okay.